Okay, let's get going here. Senator Henson. Is this your first bill in here? Oh my gosh. Then we'll be extra nice.
Bring up my panel.
Absolutely. Please do.
And may I begin?
Absolutely.
Thank you, colleagues. For the record, Senator Shanika Henson, Legislative District 30, here to present Senate Bill 582, Sale of Residential Property, Taxes and Offers to Purchase, known as the Hedge Fund Control of Maryland Homes Act of 2025. Colleagues, you undoubtedly have noticed some of the same things that I've noticed in my district, that more and more increasingly we have private equity firms that are purchasing single-family homes. Sometimes the business model is to hang on to those homes to allow property values to increase and then sell them at a profit after they've held on to them. Sometimes the model is to take them and to rent them out for short-term rentals and to make profit that way, which has its own implications on the long-term real estate market. Sometimes private equity firms come in even with new purchases. There'll be entirely new subdivisions that are built, and private equity firms will purchase up an entire street in that subdivision or a large portion of those properties so that they can do what they need to do to extract the value from that. This bill would make it more difficult for them to do that, and if they do continue that practice, this bill would put some positive revenue in our coffers as a state. So it has 4 functions in the bill. The first is that it puts a 30-day period in place where the new sales of homes, not just new homes, but any sale, would be restricted to an individual, a nonprofit, or small investors would still have an opportunity in that first 30 days. But it would give that cooling off period so the private equity firms couldn't come in right away and then outbid the other buyers and purchase those homes without real folks getting a chance at it. The second is it would increase the transfer tax for these private equity firms. So instead of paying the 0.5% transfer tax that everyone else pays, they'd pay a 15% transfer tax. You can imagine if the private equity firms keep up the business at the current pace, that would have some significant revenue for our state. The third is it would impose an excise tax. That excise tax would be imposed on those private equity firms that own a large percentage of homes and that have a certain amount of equity in their coffers. So it is targeted at just those big firms. The excise tax would be 50% of whatever the fair market value is. So let's say a private equity firm wanted to purchase a single family home that was worth $400,000. That excise tax would be $200,000. So the cost for that private equity firm would be a $600,000 purchase. That way that additional $200,000 would come back to our state coffers. And then the fourth is it would create a down payment and settlement expense loan program. We currently have the Maryland Mortgage Program where home buyers can seek relief from there to get help with down payment assistance and closing costs. This would be a subset of that. But I do understand in the challenging economic times that we are in as a state, if this committee saw that revenue and the potential for that revenue and wanted to open up the ability to apply that to the general fund balance or for any other purposes, I think it would still be in line with the spirit and intent of the bill. And with that, colleagues, articulating those 4 purposes, I will turn the rest over to my panel, Mr. Chair.
Chair, Vice Chair, thank you for having me. Albert Turner, the Public Justice Center, coming in favorable for Senate Bill 582, if I can. Just relay some of the issues that we see as representatives for tenants in Baltimore City specifically, but Maryland abroad. Whenever we speak with tenants, some of the issues that we see are the rising cost of rent, as well as the rising cost of purchasing a home. So if you're a tenant, one of your main goals in life is to become a homeowner. And 2 of the main ways to do that is to be able to save by being able to pocket some of that money that you otherwise wouldn't be able to by having to spend rent, but also by being able to purchase a home that is affordable and within your price range. And that is something that we are increasingly seeing less of because of the mass purchasing of homes based on some of these hedge funds that are coming in, particularly in Baltimore City, and buying up large swaths of property, possibly sitting on them, and then maybe even renting them out at a higher cost. My written testimony notes that there's a 68% that hedge funds are 68% more likely to file for failure to pay rent cases, are more likely to charge illicit fees on their tenants. They're also more likely to not keep up with the housing conditions of the property. I've also linked to an article as outlined by the New York Times, which is something that we see more and more, which is the use of the AI property manager that we believe hedge funds are using, which is instead of having a real person coming in and fixing a condition that the tenant has made the landlord aware of, they might say, hey, landlord, I have a faulty leak or a faucet that needs to be fixed, and some AI-generated messenger will create that ticket, send the tenant themselves the tools and the work and directions on how to fix that faucet, and make the tenant do that work by themselves. That's an increasing issue that we see in Maryland. We believe that that's something that hedge funds are using, obviously, to make sure that they're cutting their costs when it comes to that kind of thing. And this is something that we really believe needs to be addressed by the state of Maryland. And so for that, we come in favorable on this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions for this panel? Senator? Oh, now, come on. Had to do it. We actually have a legitimate question.
Yes.
Well, we'll see if it's legitimate.
Legitimate or not, you'll be the judge of that.
We'll be the judge of that.
No, I understand. I do have a legitimate question, but I want to say, first of all, I want to thank the sponsor for bringing this bill in for two reasons. One is because we need to raise revenue. This committee is very aware of that, and everyone in the state's aware of that. So coming in with revenue-raising ideas is really a valuable service. So I applaud the senator for doing that. Secondly, the problem you're addressing is not just a problem in Baltimore City. It's a problem in College Park, Maryland, I assure you, where I represent. And it's a problem across the country. So I think addressing the issue is valuable. What I wanted to ask is I've been unable to pull up the fiscal note on my iPad. How much do we think it can raise?
The fiscal note drafters were hesitant to speculate in terms of what it would bring in. They only limited it to what it would cost to implement the bill, but they did say specifically it could be potential, but they wouldn't say what potential it had.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
I guess that was a legitimate question.
Wow,
Anything else? Okay, we have a favorable with amendments on virtual. Mayor Cross from Glen Arden.
Yes, thank you so much, Chairman, and I am thankful again for this bill. And I do agree that this just isn't in Baltimore City, but also I can echo the need here in Glen Arden. As we look at so many houses transferring hands, and as you stated earlier, and very eloquently so, that many are, starting to partner up to buy houses because of the inflation that is affiliated with the actual loans and also the appraisal. I'm grateful to see this bill come to fruition. I'm also grateful that it will also have an opportunity to earn some funding, as we're also looking not just at just complaining about the problem, but scoping a problem success. So I thank you so much for the opportunity to favorably support this bill 100%. Thank you again.
Thank you. Questions for the mayor? All right. Thank you very much, Senator. And
Thank you.
panel, and we have two signed up for unfavorable, Lisa May and Alex Andelsman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Mr. Vice Chair. My name is Alex Andelsman, and I'm here on behalf of the Maryland Building Industry Association. While we understand the bill's intent of preventing large hedge funds from buying up all of Maryland's real estate, we're concerned that with the unintended consequences that it will bring if it passes. The definition of real estate enterprise in the bill is overly broad and could unintentionally include small developers. Restricting home sales for the first 30 days limits market competition and will delay sales of homes in Maryland. There's also no clear method in the bill for determining if a buyer owns less than 3% of residential property in a county, and we are unsure if the burden will fall on the seller or the purchaser. The excise tax of up to 50% on large real estate investors will inevitably be passed on to consumers. Rising home prices and mortgage rates have led to an increase in demand for build-to-rent communities, which provide quality housing options for middle-income families who are not yet ready to buy. The proposed restrictions on large-scale real estate investors will shrink this supply and reduce housing options for Maryland families. For these reasons, we request an unfavorable report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Vice Chair, Lisa May with Maryland Realtors. We are also opposed to the bill as it is currently drafted, not because of our objection or support of hedge funds owning homes. The examples of those and some of the negative outcomes of those are well documented by objective sources. But this bill does go beyond hedge funds, those Maryland-based companies, but it also impacts individual homeowners, and that is where our objection lies. And the two places where we see that are within the transfer tax and within the 30-day lockout period. Now, Maryland's median home value right now is $425,000. That means a 15% transfer tax is over $63,000 opposed to at the rate under this bill. And it's typically split between the seller and the purchaser, though that can be adjusted under contract. So here's how we see this playing out. You have an investor. There have been no offers on this property for 30 days. So the investor knows that they have no competition for this home. They will make a lowball offer and they will write it so that the seller pays the entire transfer tax. And in that motion, they have taken up tens of thousands of dollars of a homeowner's equity just because they are accepting the only offer that's been made on their home. And that is nothing that we think should happen. We think that is a punishment, and we don't think that that's anything that we can support under this bill. And because of that, we ask for your unfavorable report.
Senator Jackson?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for your testimony. So you cited one challenge, which was the homeowner having to carry that burden. Why not offer a favorable with amendment?
Increasing transfer taxes has just really been a line in the sand for our organization. And while we know that this bill has not been here before this committee before, it has been introduced before on the House side, and we have been opposed to it there. So I think going back against our longstanding opposition to the bill to suddenly be favorable with amendments seemed a little
Nuance? Thank you, though. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator.
Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, that concludes the hearing on that bill, and we are now moving on. Is there else here? Yeah, yes, yeah, great. 593.
Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the Budget and Taxation Committee. For the record, Senator Arthur Ellis here to present Senate Bill 593, hidden in my notes, which proposes to increase the audit revenue threshold from $250,000 to $700,000 to determine the financial audit frequency for municipalities and special taxing districts. By raising this threshold, Senate Bill 593 will allow the legislative auditor greater discretion in adjusting the audit schedule for qualifying entities. This change aims to reduce the administrative and financial burden on small municipalities while maintaining responsible oversight of public funds. So we have all these towns and cities in Maryland and special taxing authorities. We know the largest municipality, Baltimore City, but do you know the smallest municipality in Maryland? It's in my district, Port Tobacco. Almost like 15 citizens on any given day. Now, if someone gave birth last night, that number might be wrong. It might be 16, or if someone moved out or passed away. But it runs around that number. And so currently, there is exemption of $250,000 revenues for an annual audit. We have quite a few municipalities who are larger than that, and they require annual audit, but they have really trouble completing those audits and paying for them. How do I know this? one of my additional duties up here in Annapolis, I'm the Senate Chair for the Joint Committee on the Management of Public Funds. And every year we have hearings from all these municipalities who miss an audit. They were not able to get an audit done, pay for it. And so they have to come before us and tell us why the dog ate their homework. And so a lot of times it's not their faults, you know, small towns, small municipalities throughout Maryland. And, you know, audits are very expensive. The auditor will not take an audit for generally under, say, $10,000 because you have to go through the procedures, you have to go through the checks and balances. Just because they're a small town doesn't mean, hey, we'll just go and finish this audit in 5 minutes. They have to go through all the procedures and make sure they find everything they need to find. And so this bill requires up to 700,000 small towns not to have an audit every year. They will still be required to have an audit every 3 years. So this bill, if passed, will reduce the financial burden on a lot of our small towns and municipalities and other special districts. So while reducing the audit burden on smaller entities is beneficial, it is essential to ensure that continued transparency and accountability in financial management. Less frequent audits could lead to oversight gaps if appropriate safeguards are not in place. To address this concern, alternative financial reporting mechanism should be considered to provide regular financial disclosure between audit cycles. Additionally, a risk-based approach should guide the legislative auditor's discretion, ensuring that municipalities and special taxing districts with higher financial risk or on previous audit concerns continue to receive appropriate scrutiny. As Senate Chair of this Joint Committee on Management of Public Funds, I play a crucial role in overseeing the policies that impact the financial integrity of Maryland municipalities and special taxing districts. That sounds like a pat on my back. My staff wrote that, and they think I'm special. I'm just reading this. I thank them for thinking I'm special. The committee's leadership is refined and implementing this policy will essentially ensure responsible financial management across Maryland municipalities and special taxing districts. Therefore, I ask for a favorable report on Senate Bill 593.
Thank you, Senator. Questions for the Senator? We have Mayor Cross again, I believe, virtually.
Hello, thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Senator. I appreciate this bill so much, beyond words. There is a need to ensure that even small municipalities like us are able to pay for these audits. But one thing I've been very clear about in this last term is that audits are there to only just reinforce what we should be already rightfully doing. So there shouldn't be any fear of when an audit comes. Just like when I served in the military, nobody minded that we would have an inspection because we were always mission ready. And I think that's one of the key things about financial statements and what you're doing with this bill to ensure transparency, but also to afford this state of Maryland to prosper in the right way and all the cities and the citizens and the tax dollars to be effectively used. So I am 100% in support of this legislation. I know that it will come at a cost to municipalities for transparency, but I think that that is a special action that many people should be doing anyway because we serve the people and we are about doing the people's business. So in those special taxing areas, and I know Port Tobacco and the size of it, the mayor there is my good friend, I will tell you as well that this will also help with the annual waiver audit. And with the amendment, I would ask that there would be a requirement that in every election cycle that there is actually a fraud audit called, because one of the things that we're getting is an opinion, but what we need is a true attestment of whether or not we have legally, logically, and relatively responsibly executed the fiduciary duties of our citizens. I stand in support of Senate Bill 0593 with the amendment for fraud audits as a requirement, either every 2 terms or every term of the election cycle of that particular city. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mayor. Questions for the mayor? Thank you, and thank you, Senator.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Senator Hester, 705. you have a panel, you can bring them up.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, members of the Budget and Tax Committee, for your consideration of Senate Bill 705. For the record, my name is Katie Fryhester, and I serve as the co-chair of the Joint Committee on Cyber, IT, and Biotech. I wanted to start out just with some context about this bill before I actually explain what the bill does. My assistant is passing out some information that you can kind of follow along with. But the Joint Committee has really been looking at this issue of IT modernization really since like 2020. It's been a long time. And the lack of clarity, authority, and management and oversight really has led to poor project management, cost overruns, and failures. And if you go back, I mean, anybody really wants to dig into this, we got tons of hearings from like 2021, 2022, where we just hear the same thing about how broken the system is over and over and over again. The problem became really glaringly apparent with the audit of Do It in March of 2024. It really delivered kind of a scathing assessment, most notably an increase in costs for the MD Think project. Do It was also responsible for overseeing the state's 53 major IT development projects, valued at $2.9 billion. In short, the audit, my colleagues from OLA can share more about this, but the audit found that Do It delegated significant responsibilities to state agencies without ensuring the agencies had sufficient resources and qualified personnel. They also didn't effectively monitor the MITDPs to ensure the changes in scope and cost were appropriate. They could not explain project cost increases for 2 MITDPs that increased a combined $1.03 billion between 2018 and 2022. I mean, who can't explain an increase of $1 billion? Do It did not provide sufficient oversight for MD Think, and they could not adequately explain the delays in system implementation. MD Think project estimated at cost to complete at $588 million, which was an increase of almost 80% from 166 to plus 422 million. So anyways, all this is pretty sad. Sorry, state at Do It. And I think that they actually admit it at this point. But what makes it even more troubling, colleagues, is that this committee, the Budget and Tax Committee, established the fund in 2002 and then Do It in 2008 within the Department of Budget Management. And they were established to avoid this problem. So working with DLS, we pulled up the operating budget analysis from 2002, and I'm just going to read a quote because it sounds a hell of a lot like today. Sorry. But the state spending in fiscal 2001 totals nearly $570 million on IT-related goods and services. In recent years, the state has also spent millions on the development of IT projects that produced inadequate computer systems. Some of the reasons for project failures point to poor project management, lack of initial planning, insufficiently trained personnel, and Maryland must take steps to safeguard its growing investment in valued resources. This, in conclusion, the issues highlight some common problems found throughout the state, which include poor planning, lack of expertise in the agencies of design and development of systems, low pay and inadequate training, and lack of effective centralized oversight. So colleagues, we are here today exactly where we were in 2002. We still have billions of dollars at stake in IT overruns. So fast forward to today, and if you look at 2025, at the mid-year MITDP report, we have funding appropriations this year of $348 million and an estimated cost at completion of the entire portfolio of $2 billion. And of these projects, only 20% of them are not experiencing some kind of challenge. I wish it was like the opposite. I wish like 20% had challenges, but 80% of these projects have challenges. And somewhere in this little handout, you will see that the MITD challenges kind of year over year. And you can see that, you know, what the, here they are over the past like 3 or 4 years. And we went back as far as we could with the help of an AI tool. But like here, schedule management, 40% of our projects have schedule problems. You know, 35% have resources and staffing problems. 35% have procurement-related problems. Like, what we have is just not working. And what I think is at the heart of the issue is that we've got a triangle and of people who are kind of managing it, but not really. You have the Department of General Services, who issues the contracts, and then the agencies have delegated the responsibility to manage the projects, but they don't have the technical capacity to manage them effectively. And then you have the Department of IT, which is statutorily mandated to provide oversight of these projects. But they're saying that the agencies are managing them and DGS has the contracts. Now, if you look in the operating budget on page 337, and I know this because I look at it frequently, that's where all the MIT projects are. There's $4.3 million in project oversight. That oversight is due at paying a contract, right, staff augmentation, to oversee the contractors who are managing the projects for the agencies. So legitimately, we're paying contractors to oversee contractors who the agencies are supposed to be managing. The agencies say that DeWitt's supposed to be providing technical oversight, and DeWitt says DGS has the contracts. It is a mess. It's a complete mess. Let me just see what I want to hit on next. Oh, the good news. The good news is that we had a really frank conversation with the treasurer, Senator Steve Hershey and myself. We asked him to pause the current contract for agile teams for 2 weeks. That contract is a $500 million contract for the next 10 years. Why anybody would lock into a 10-year contract for 10 years in IT is beyond me. I mean, IT changes fast. If you don't get done in a year, it's not relevant anymore. But anyways, the reason for them pushing ahead with this contract was because there's some federal funding at stake. And I do believe that because things are a little dicey at the federal level right now. So we didn't want to mess up that federal funding. However, this contract has a cancel for convenience at any time. So I think that we should hold them accountable to cancel it for convenience if need be. We had a very good meeting about a week ago with folks from DGS, from DeWitt, from the governor's office. Senator Jennings, very nice to see you there. Senator King came along as well. And like, the unfortunate thing is that everybody at that meeting agreed that this process was a mess. And we're committed to cleaning it up. They're committed to cleaning it up. The first thing that we want is increased reporting, which is where this bill comes in. But also with that contract, we are asking them to provide for every single work order within 30 days of a work order going off that Agile Teams contract, we want a report. And then every 6 months after that, we want an update on that report so we can see if the money is being spent well or not. This bill originally came in as a way to modify the MITDP reports because we actually need somebody to be looking at these cost overruns, looking at if we're getting results, value for money. And so we have to shed a little light on what the MITDP reports are doing, and we have to hold one person accountable. We can't have this triangle of like they're in charge because that's just not working for the state. So the first thing that this bill does is to increase the reporting requirements. The second thing that needs to happen, and is not yet in this bill, although I'm working on an amendment, is to increase the project management capacity at the local level. We're not quite sure what this looks like, but I can guarantee you it's not contractors overseeing contractors overseeing contractors. You know, in conversations with DeWitt, they've acknowledged that these projects need both a technical product lead, a manager, and an engineering lead. And rather than paying for staff augmentation, I think we should look at the federal talent that's out there, see if we can hire some good people who will do this, you know, for good value for money. The other potential is like increased centralization. This is what DeWitt was supposed to do, you know, 20 some years ago when we created them, is to have, one centralized oversight for the spend on all these projects. So we're still working through with the agencies what that might look like. The third thing, and then I'll turn it over to the auditors. No, those are kind of, those are the three things. One is increased reporting, two is increased project management capacity, and three is increased centralization and what that looks like. And so while the bill before you looks like a simple reporting bill, I'm telling you we have a very expensive problem here. And if there was ever a time to be, frugally looking at our spend, this is the time, and we should fix this problem which has plagued us for the past 20 years. And so with that wonderful introduction, I'd like to turn it over to the auditors.
So, Senator, first off, thank you for bringing this bill forward. Thank you for taking on this with such gusto. You are right, this is a mess. It was a mess even before 2002, quite frankly. And some of this, the Do-It solution was supposed to help all of that. We have not, in my opinion, in all the years I've been around, ever seen an actual solution to our problem. The money has been, unfortunately, going down a hole in many ways and in many projects, and it's a shame. It's hard to get a grasp of it, particularly, I think, for a lot of lay people who. But what you've done here is critically important, and I think we need to take significant action through this bill, maybe through budget action additionally. I'm very, we're gonna work hard on this. This is not something that we need to, particularly as you say, with all the challenges we have financially. This has got to get handled, and it's got to get handled. It's going to take a while, but it's something that must be done.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, Mr. Co-Chair, and members of the committee. My name is Matthew Street. I'm a director within our Office of Legislative Audits, and with me is Robert Smith. He was one of our audit managers on the Department of Information Technology audit. My testimony will be informational regarding the most recent audit of Do-It. The senator encapsulated a lot of the information that I would like to talk about, and you did a great job putting it out there. Our office does not take a position on the bill due to our independence regarding how we conduct audits of agencies. Our most recent audit was dated March 24, 2024. It contained 16 findings. Seven of those findings related to the major information technology development projects. Due to the significant nature of the findings that were in the report, our office determined that Do-It's accountability and compliance level was unsatisfactory. This means that our office had to conduct a follow-up review to determine Do-It's status to take corrective actions on the findings that were in the report. We have done that follow-up review. A report on the follow-up review will be coming in the coming weeks. I was going to highlight the findings, but due to the interest of time, I can conclude my presentation here, and we can just turn it over for any questions about the audit.
Your colleague here for questions. So. Yes.
Thank you. Why hasn't Do-It fixed it?
That is a great question.
Thank you. I appreciate the compliment.
Well, their solution last year, was to redefine oversight. So for them, oversight is like looking at the papers and tracking some numbers and producing a report. And their bill last year was really to get rid of any kind of it was to define oversight as not management. So, I mean, fundamentally, I think they don't assume accountability, but what's even more problematic is I don't think they want that accountability. I don't know, but I don't know what the auditors would say.
I would say that they historically have viewed their role as a consultant when it comes to these projects. We, as an office, have taken the position that the department is there to help and guide and oversee the projects from start to finish. We want them more involved in selecting, helping to select the project managers that are going to be on these projects, help with the design and implementation, making sure that they're involved in every detail. Now they do. Go ahead. They do bring down the agencies for monthly or quarterly portfolio reviews, but that's really just the agency trying to, paint themselves in the best light when it comes to these projects, make sure that, the funding continues. What we want is make sure that DO IT is overseeing these projects well and managing the state's resources, the financial resources that are funding these projects.
If I might just continue, I think that, the new administration has been around, 2 years or so. I think that they are putting in place some things to try. I've heard them say that they don't want to do anything like too big. They want to start and pilot some things and see if it's successful. When I press them to like what it would actually take to manage these projects, like I think they said something like 50 or 60 pins. Like if they really were going to take on and have these team leads and like embed these technical project experts in this agency for 2 years, then come back and then work at this agency for 2 years, they need like 50 or 60 people to do that. At least that is what they are telling me. And so, but there's a question of like, if they had that many people, would they want to accept the challenge of delivering, value for the state of Maryland? I mean, but I think that our expectations as a legislature are a lot higher than what they currently have the resources for.
They haven't proposed getting those new. Correct.
No, they've asked for, like 4 or 5 pins in their budget. So like you can't, even if we get them 4 or 5 pins, it's not going to change what needs to change. But I do think there's a budget neutral solution. Like we are paying hand over fist for like these consultants. I would take that $4.3 million of quote oversight, turn that into real people. I would cut all the MIT DP projects by 15, 20%, get rid of all those consultants, and then actually get some work done.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
So mine's more of a statement, Mr. Chair, if you give me a minute. I had a bill a couple years ago kind of giving DO IT the power to do this because I don't think they have the power that they need. A lot of the agencies, they have their own IT departments. And the argument I've always had is, who is in charge? Who is the one person in the state? Who is our CISO? Who can make that decision should there be an issue? And at the time, the answer is always, well, there really is nobody. And, I brought a bill in, and the previous administration, kind of, at first they liked it, but then at the last minute they said no. And what it was is different agencies came in and said no, because, for instance, Department of Transportation, Department of Health, they have systems that are also tied to federal systems that they say, look, ours are so complex, we can't give that to DO IT because they don't understand it. And the example I always used was kind of like how the Attorney General's office is. Attorney General kind of farms his team out to each of the agencies to do their job. I always thought that's how DO IT should be, is they should be the central hub, and then kind of the hub and spoke where they put their people in all the agencies. So I think in a little defense of DO IT, they were not set up properly to do this, and they're not running efficiently because of that. And I think for us to do it right, we should come in with the number of pins and really give them the teeth they need to go into these agencies and be able to have the power to do this properly. In my opinion, sir.
Thank you very much. Do you think if they, good to see you all, do you think if they had the pins, they would be able to do it?
You asked.
I'm asking anybody.
It's a tall task. I don't have the answer to that question, but.
And I would say it varies. Like there's some people who've been there a long time and there's some people that are new. And if we're talking about hiring 60, 70 new pins, of which there currently are. When I was talking to some of the folks that do it, she said on LinkedIn, I got 70 people reaching out, want to work for us. So the talent is out there right now. I think, I don't know. There's other models, right, where the state outsources all of this to something called a master service integrator, right? There's problems with that model too. So, I think this is our challenge over the next 41 days. We got to figure out what we want to do and make it happen. But I think the good news is we've got some extra money to play with because it's not being spent well now.
Go back, and we talked about it before, is kind of the Stadium Authority. They're very good at managing construction projects. And it's kind of, we need to have that type of team who's good at managing IT projects to do this. And I guess, if you don't mind, what is your thought on that, if I may ask?
I would say IT projects are very synonymous to a construction project. Yes, they are long. There's a lot of planning involved. You're putting something together. You're planning, designing, developing, just like you would with a construction project. And there's a lot of money involved in these projects to help state function. And if you don't have the right people in place, the project is destined to not succeed. Or it's destined to continue to go down the road of schedule increases, cost increases, scope creep, or maybe even scope reduction, just to try to stay within budget. And inevitably, the state is left with a lesser of a product than what was originally envisioned.
I'd also point out that the Stadium Authority, probably has the ability to pay higher prices, procure faster, and generally kind of execute more like the private sector.
Other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, 769 is one of mine, and my team is going to be handling the next three bills.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, and members of the committee. My name is Betsy Hickson, and I'm a staffer in Senator Gazzoni's office, and I'm here to present Senate Bill 769, Community Eligibility Provision Expansion Program, Establishment. CEP is the federal community eligibility provision. This is a program that offers universal school meals at individual schools. Currently, the federal government pays on a sliding scale down to schools at 25% ISP, individual school provision, which is a proxy for poverty. CEP has revolutionized children's access to healthy school meals by eliminating stigma for students, since all students would receive meals, reducing barriers of cost and paperwork for families, and streamlining food service operations. According to the CDC, most U.S. children attend school for 6 hours a day and could consume as much as half of their daily calories at school. CEP allows children to have access to the nutrition they need to learn, which is just as vital to student success as textbooks and transportation. Due to a required state match, we are currently leaving federal money on the table, as there are schools that qualify for federal money, but some need the state matching dollars to make offering school meals financially possible. Due to CEP's reimbursement structure, schools with higher poverty rates get more federal funds and are more likely to participate in CEP, while schools on the lower end of the eligibility threshold may struggle without additional financial assistance. With the unknowns about what will happen federally, this funding proposed in the bill could also be used to protect school dollars that may be cut for school meals. According to the National Institutes of Health, most studies examining universal free school meals that included free lunch found connections between food security and academic performance. It is difficult for children to pay attention and learn in school when they are hungry, and while this will not fully solve the problem, it is a meaningful step forward towards feeding more kids in Maryland and increasing academic performance. Thank you, and I ask for a favorable report of Senate Bill 769.
Thank you, Betsy. Good job. So, I bring these bills every year in some form or fashion, and we've tried to expand the program. We got a long way to go to get to universal, but the goal has been to sort of inch along. In today's circumstances, even this inch is a mile. So it's a tough one. But I think it's important that we keep talking about it. I think it's a critical component in what we ultimately do, and I think it ties right into everything that that the blueprint's all about ultimately. There's a whole group of folks who I don't know if you were going to be a panel or not, but you're welcome to come up. You're already coming. Good. Whoever would like to start.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Chairman Gazzoni, and thank you, members of the Budget and Tax Committee. My name is Laura Hale. I'm the Director of Government Relations with the American Heart Association, and we stand in strong support of this legislation. This is truly a step forward as we see the needs in Maryland with this federal program. As also, we know for children to succeed in school, it is essential that they have healthy lunch and healthy breakfast, and school meals that are provided right now do just that. This is truly a step forward. As well, another just important fact to note is that research out of Johns Hopkins showed how much offering free school meals for all made a difference, not only for children, but also for families. As families who participate in school meals were able to stave off food insecurity or not become more food insecure, and it was a key protective factor in making sure that Maryland families did not drop deeper into poverty, or our middle-class families did not fall into poverty. We can choose to make sure that we leave no child behind as we continue to take meaningful steps forward to expand this program to schools that could qualify right now if they had state matching dollars. We urge a favorable report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Julia Gross. I am the Senior Associate for Child Nutrition Programs at Maryland Hunger Solutions, and we also are in full support of this bill. Maryland Hunger Solutions works statewide to end food insecurity in Maryland, and a key piece of doing that is making sure that Marylanders have sustainable connections to these key federal nutrition programs like SNAP and WIC and school meals, which is a massive safety net program for our families. There are hundreds of thousands of kids across Maryland who receive meals from these programs every single day, and the school nutrition programs are a critical part of our food system, as well as a first line of defense against childhood hunger. Mr. Chairman, your staff did a wonderful job describing the community eligibility provision, so I'll try to keep my remarks short, but I did want to highlight 3 key points for you today. The first is that today in Maryland, there were kids that did not get a meal in school, and whether that was because they couldn't afford a meal or they were faced with stigma or embarrassment from not having money in their account, those kids went hungry in our classrooms. The second is that there are school nutrition programs that are accruing debt to help solve this problem. They are facing debt that has ballooned to 3, sometimes 4 times what they were experiencing prior to the pandemic. And that is not only impacting the programs and the families that are involved, but also education operational funds. And then third, we have made progress as a state on this already, and so this bill is really building on successes that we've already seen with increasing our direct certification and improving our community eligibility provision accessibility, but we really need to make this next step because those kids that didn't receive a meal in school today can't wait. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Megan Doran. I am past president of Maryland School Nutrition Association, and I am here to express our support for this bill. This bill is essential as it addresses a critical need for our educational framework. By providing funding to cover the difference between the reimbursement rate, we can ensure that all eligible students receive adequate financial support to maintain the meal programs. We have seen significant improvements in learning, attention, and most importantly, in the students' diets. This is such an important bill, and we ask for a favorable consideration. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Vice Chair, and members of the committee. My name is Matt Capodanno with the Maryland Food Bank.
The food bank is also very supportive of this bill. You have our supportive written testimony as well, and we respectfully request a favorable report on SB 769.
Thank you. We have one virtual witness, Emma Frost.
Hi.
Hey.
To the chair, vice chair, and members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to provide testimony in favor of Senate Bill 769. My name is Emma Frost, and every day in my role as a pediatrician at Children's National Hospital, I meet Maryland children and their families. When they sit in my office, two of the many topics we discuss are what they eat daily and how they do in school. Discussions about nutrition are ones that every pediatrician knows well. According to the CDC, only a quarter of Maryland children ate fruit daily in the past week, and less than half ate a daily vegetable. These sobering statistics are even more striking in families with food insecurity. In our practice, we screen every family for food insecurity, and nearly 40% screen positive. One of the most important things I can do to protect the health of my patients is to ensure that all kids are eating well-balanced diets that help reduce the risk of chronic medical conditions and stimulate brain development. When I ask parents and caregivers to identify barriers to healthy eating, nearly every single person says it's the cost. The historic increase in food prices we've all experienced hurts families, especially those who already struggled with food insecurity. Data suggests that the Community Eligibility Provision Program can play a role in reducing obesity, increasing school attendance, and improving behavior and school performance. But there's still work to be done in ensuring that Maryland school districts who serve large numbers of low-income students can afford to provide nutritious breakfasts and lunches to all students free of charge. Senate Bill 769 would help fill that gap, and Maryland would be taking a step forward towards ensuring all its children are well-fed and well-nourished. One of the greatest gifts of being a pediatrician is getting to hear my patients' success stories. I know that with the passage of this bill, I will hear even more children staying healthy, fit, and focused on school. As such, I respectfully request a favorable report on Senate Bill 769. Thank you again for the opportunity, and I'm happy to respond to any questions.
Thank you. Questions for anybody, any of these testifiers? Thank you all very much. Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to Senate Bill 849. The panel can come up, too. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the committee. My name is Favor Obasiolu. I serve as a legislative fellow in Chair Gazzoni's office. Today, I am here to present to you Senate Bill 849, Professional and Volunteer Firefighter Innovative Cancer Screening Technologies Program funding. To provide a quick backstory, under Senator Gazzoni's Senate Bill 727 that was passed in 2019, the Firefighter Cancer Screening Grant Program was created to allow local professional and volunteer fire departments to apply for grants for cancer screening tests. The rationale behind this bill was that studies have shown and confirmed that firefighters face unique occupational hazards that result in higher incidences and death rates for many cancers that are not routinely screened for. The Firefighter Cancer Screening Grant Program is designed to reduce cancer mortality among professional and volunteer firefighters. This program was originally passed and intended to be funded at $100,000 annually in the hopes that funding would increase later in the years. In 2024, the legislature passed a bill authorizing at least $500,000 to be included in the governor's budget. According to the U.S. Fire Administration, there are 261 registered fire departments in the state of Maryland, and under the current funding, only 513 individual firefighters were screened with the available funds in 2024. This bill before you today proposes authorizing an increase of funds for the Professional and Volunteer Firefighter Innovative Cancer Screening Technologies Program to at least $3 million to allow more firefighters to be screened. As written, the bill allows the Secretary of Health to collect and utilize up to 20% of the program funds to support academic medical centers across the state to assess and improve the effectiveness of the cancer screening funded by this bill. We have submitted an amendment to change this language to research centers so that UMD Institute for Health Computing may be one of the research centers the state utilizes. This would benefit the program by allowing the IHC to merge their computational expertise, clinical expertise, biomedical innovation, health data, and academic resources of the University of Maryland system to analyze this program. Thank you, and I would request a favorable report on Senate Bill 849.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Chairman and Committee. For the record, I'm Chief Robert Phillips, past Chief of Cambridge, Maryland. I am presently the Legislative Chair for the Maryland State Firefighters Association. I'm here to give testimony in favor of this bill. I'm just going to give you a few thought processes, something just for you to think about long after I've left this room. Cancer's taken its toll on our firefighters and first responders. It happens every day, all the time. Cancer comes from many exposures. We cannot control where it comes from. We just have to learn how to work with it and within it. The Legislative Committee of the Maryland State Firefighters in the past 3 years have lost 2 of our members. Both of them very well known to probably everybody sitting in here. One is Richard Smith. He served us as a chair or co-chair for over 10 years, closer to 20. He passed away 3 years ago from cancer. Just this past year, a dear friend of most of you in here, James Jimmy Malone, passed away after a long battle with cancer. Both of these gentlemen were lifelong firefighters, either volunteer or career. If we had had the cancer screenings and had the money to pay for them for early cancer screenings, maybe they would have been sitting in here speaking to you today and not myself. But that's not the case. I don't have a lot more I can tell you. I want you to think about those few items right there. I want you to know that the chemicals that we live in and breathe, you're sitting in right now. Everything surrounding you is a petrochemical somewhere. And when it mixes with heat, as a catalyst, it breaks down and creates a hazardous environment. We live with this. When you have petroleum spills, gasoline, oil, things such as this out on the highways, and your firefighters, they respond. Can I finish, sir? One thought. When we respond, we use other chemicals, foams, to combat and control fires and flame spread. These foams, Class B foams, for years that we used, they had chemicals in them not known to us at the time to be carcinogenic, and they've caused these types of cancers. We fully support this. We ask for your favorable report so we can have screenings. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, esteemed members of the committee. I want to begin by expressing my thanks to Committee Chair Guy Guzzone, Vice Chair Jim Rosapep, and to all the members of this committee for allowing me to speak today in strong support of Senate Bill 849. My name is Adam Porter, and I'm a professor of computer science at the University of Maryland, and I'm the co-executive director of the University of Maryland Institute for Health Computing, or the IHC. The IHC works every day to harness massive data and advanced computing to improve well-being and quality of life, to fight disease and enhance medical outcomes for people all across Maryland and beyond. This bill grows the professional and volunteer firefighter innovative cancer screening technologies program and mandates detailed analysis of performance data to ensure that the program delivers on its mission. Many of us are unaware that firefighters face heightened cancer risks through routine exposure to carcinogens. In fact, one study has even shown that firefighters have a 9% higher risk of being diagnosed with cancer and a 14% higher risk of dying from cancer compared to the general U.S. population. And we've heard today about some of the toxic fallouts from when heat is mixed with various chemicals. In fact, the IHC researchers have linked smoke from Western Canadian wildfires with subsequent massive increases in lung and heart-related medical visits right here in Baltimore. And firefighters face this on a daily basis. So therefore, the Maryland Department of Health has created a program that provides grants allowing firefighters to receive advanced cancer screening tests and thus reduce cancer-related mortality. This successful initial program now seeks to help even more people. Our firefighters risk their lives to protect us, and I believe that it's our responsibility to safeguard their health in return. This bill gives firefighters tools for early cancer detection, ultimately saving lives and honoring their unwavering commitment to public safety. Thank you for your consideration.
Good afternoon, Chairman Gazzoni, Vice Chair Rosapep, and distinguished members of the committee. My name is Melissa Bragg. I am the second Vice President of the Professional Firefighters of Maryland, which represents over 10,000 career firefighters, paramedics, and emergency service workers in our state. I'm speaking to you today to urge a favorable report for Senator Gazzoni's bill, Senate Bill 849, which seeks to increase the funding for the Professional and Volunteer Firefighter Innovative Cancer Screening Technologies Program. The bill addresses a critical need to protect the health and well-being of our state's dedicated firefighters and emergency service workers who face an elevated risk of cancer due to their service. As you may know, firefighters are exposed to hazardous conditions that include toxic smoke, chemicals, carcinogens, placing them at an increased risk for various types of cancer. It is not if we will be exposed to the carcinogens, it is how often will we be exposed to the carcinogens. This bill will help ensure that our brave first responders have access to early life-saving cancer screenings through the expansion of funding for innovative screening technologies. Increasing the annual funding cap from $500,000 to $3 million is a vital step in ensuring that more firefighters, both professional and volunteer, can benefit from this important program. These funds will not only cover screenings, but up to 20% of the funds will go to support data collection and analysis through academic medical centers, and which will allow us to continually improve the program and ensure its effectiveness. This program is not just about improving cancer detection, it is about saving lives. Early detection of cancer leads to more successful treatment outcomes, and by investing in innovative technologies, Maryland can be a leader in cancer prevention for our firefighters. As a state that values the hard work and sacrifices of our first responders, it is our responsibility to ensure they have the resources that we need to protect ourselves from occupational risk, which we'll face. Senate Bill 849 is a necessary and important step in safeguarding the health of our firefighters and ensuring that we have access to the best possible screening technologies. I urge you to support Senate Bill 849 and vote in favor of expanding this critical program for our firefighters. Thank you for your consideration and for your commitment to the safety and health of our first responders.
Thank you. Questions for this panel? Thank you very much. I have two other people signed up, Carrington Anderson and Katie Nash. Thank you.
Very briefly, Mr. Chairman, we were just here as a Me Too from the Professional Firefighters of Frederick County. Thank you very much. Katie Nash.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. My name is Carrington Anderson with the Maryland Association of Counties. Also very supportive of this bill. As you know, it enhances funding. Counties are very supportive of these efforts. Many counties already have a cancer screening program, and with constrained budgets, many counties rely on funding such as this. So we certainly urge a favorable report. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions? Thank you. That concludes the hearing on that. Oh, you had something to say?
Mr. Chair, I just want to share with you how special it is to come to a jointly assigned bill sponsored by the chair of the committee. Absolutely no unfavorables. And by the way, love my firefighters and love Jimmy Malone. He and I got into plenty of trouble when we were in the House together. So thank you for that, Mr. Chair. If you have any more great bills like this, feel free to yell over. I'm happy to bounce out of committee.
It's great to have you here, and that trouble you used to get into is well documented. Okay. We have 880. This ends the Senator Gazzoni show, sort of, for the day. Yep, everybody would like to testify can come up.
Okay. Thank you again, Mr. Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the committee. My name is Favor Obasiolu. I serve as a legislative fellow in Senator Gazzoni's office. Today I am here to present Senate Bill 880, Governor's Office for Children, Boys and Girls Clubs of Maryland, grant funding. This bill mandates that the governor includes $5 million in the annual budget in fiscal year 2027 and each year thereafter to provide grants to the Boys and Girls Clubs of Maryland. This bill is also introduced to directly support evidence-based programming delivered through the successful Boys and Girls Clubs operated across the state and every county in Maryland. Currently, there are over 80 Boys and Girls Club programs statewide, with an additional 20 clubs in planning stages, serving approximately 25,000 young people. I know the committee is aware of the goal of 100 clubs being in operation by the end of this year. These clubs are hubs to local communities and offer hope and opportunity to Maryland's youth every day. We appreciate the statewide partnerships with many other nonprofit organizations that clubs engage with. These partnerships also include state partners such as the Maryland State Police, Maryland National Guard, Maryland Natural Resource Committee, Department of Service, and Civic Innovation. We see clubs and their profound impact located across the state in Title I schools, on community college campuses, and in standalone facilities. These funds requested will be utilized to support after-school and full-day summer camp programs with an emphasis in Title I communities. Club programs are delivered in support of and centered on academic success, healthy lifestyles, character and leadership development, and workforce development. Funding will allow for 1, continued expansion across the state, and 2, support ongoing operations. In conclusion, Senate Bill 880 is a critical step forward, ensuring that Boys and Girls Clubs of Maryland can continue to provide valuable community-based programs. And for that reason, I ask for a favorable report on Senate Bill 880. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Vice Chairman, and distinguished members of the Budget and Taxation Committee. My name is Samira Jackson with Manus Canning, and we represent the Boys and Girls Clubs of Maryland. Here with me this morning as panelists are Mr. Mark Piccarelli, an advocate and consultant with the Boys and Girls Clubs of America, Ms. Tamika Thrasher, the CEO of the Frederick County Boys and Girls Club, who I might add was a former youth club member in her time, and then also Ms. Kylie McCoy, an outstanding young member of the Metro Baltimore Boys and Girls Club. We are here this afternoon along with several members of the leaders of the CEOs of Boys and Girls Clubs throughout the state of Maryland, asking for a favorable review of Senate Bill 880, and with gratitude and support of you, Mr. Chairman. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you for your time.
Good afternoon. I'm Mark Piccarelli, and I've had the good fortune of working with Boys and Girls Clubs all over the state, and I continue to do so. I've traveled over the last 3 years, from Crisfield to Hancock, from Colmar Manor to Wild Lake, from Salisbury to Frederick, Laurel to Lexington Park, and North Beach to Capitol Heights, and many, many, many communities in between, working with locally elected officials who want to start Boys and Girls Clubs. You heard some of the numbers. We've gone from 35 clubs over the last 3 years to over 80 clubs with a goal of 100 clubs, and we're real excited about that, to try to reach as many youth as we can, especially in Title I areas. You heard that we partner with federal agencies and local state agencies so we can leverage more resources with Maryland State Police, Department of Natural Resources Police. We're putting Maryland Service Corps members, over 50 of them, in our clubs to work as well. So we're continuing to do that, and we're excited to continue our growth and our expansion efforts. We've got no less than 20 to 30 new communities that want to start clubs just this year alone that we've met with. The bill, just to emphasize, this bill before the committee will be matched. Okay, will be matched by local organizations and local boards that make up those organizations all across this entire state. We've got 9 different organizations now that cover the entire state, and that they will be. So they'll be leveraged, and that'll double in the investment in our clubs and the communities. You know, at the end, we become a fabric of the community. What differentiates us, again, is the ability that we're building centered with paid professional staff in these clubs so the kids can count on us. We've become that hub, and we're open to partnering with all kinds of other nonprofits as well in these clubs. But it's a safe place the kids can go to every single year. I've been starting clubs all over the country for 33 years now, and I'm especially proud of being able to focus on Maryland, born and raised in Prince George's County, so I'm intimately familiar with the state and the county. The last thing I'll just say is, as an example about being in the fabric of the community, in an unfortunate recent shooting in Columbia Mall this past weekend, where a young person lost their lives and another one was injured, 16 and 15-year-olds. we were called on by the county executive to be part of a roundtable this evening and offer extended programs and our trauma-informed approaches to the community and expand our efforts to help that community even more. And that's just a very quick example of our reach. Thank you.
Chairman, Vice Chairman, and members of the Budget and Taxation Committee, good afternoon, and thank you for the opportunity to be here today. I'm Tamika Thrasher. I'm the CEO of the Boys and Girls Club of Frederick County and a proud former club kid from the Bronx, New York. I'm here to voice my strong support in Bill 880, which directly impacts the well-being and the future success of our youth across the state of Maryland, particularly those that need us the most. Boys and Girls Club across the state provides a safe and supportive environment for thousands of young people, many who are still struggling with the lasting effects from COVID-19. But I want us to be clear and understand that we don't just serve the low-income children or poor children. We serve all kids and all youth. Our programs offer academic success, mentorship, career readiness, and it's a sense of belonging and ensures that every child has the opportunity to thrive regardless of their backgrounds or their zip code. For me personally, the club was more than just a place to go. It was a lifeline. I grew up in a single-parent household, as many of the families that we serve at the club do. And my mom worked very long hours driving from or taking the train and bus from the Bronx into the city of Manhattan. And the Boys and Girls Club was a safe haven for myself and my brother. It kept my brother off the streets, and it also gave me that community that allowed me, with the big personality that I continue to have, is to be a bigger dreamer and to have a bigger personality. And who knew that all these years later I would actually be the CEO of a Boys and Girls Club, actually leading the kids the way I was led growing up in the club. And so I want to continue to give back and continue to support the kids that need us the most. And so, as you all know, we cannot do this alone. This appropriation will allow us to change the lives and expand the reach of the kids that we are trying to serve in the state of Maryland. And we need champions like you all in the state of Maryland to fight for our kids. And we urge you to support Bill 880 and invest in our future and our youth. So thank you.
Hi, my name is Kylie McCoy. I am 14 years old, and I have been a proud member of Brooklyn O'Malley Boys and Girls Club of Metropolitan Baltimore for 4 years. I'm originally from Hartford, Connecticut, and I started at what is known as the first Boys and Girls Club in America, also known as Asylum Hill. I have been to 3 different Boys and Girls Clubs around the U.S., and I could proudly say that Brooklyn O'Malley is one of the best that provides youth with multiple opportunities, a safe place, and a break from the outside world. When I first moved to Maryland, I believed my life would be easier. However, it came with many new challenging experiences, the biggest one being last year. I was bullied online and in school, leading to me being assaulted by ex-friends, and I became very depressed, very defeated. Not only did I attempt to run away, but to end my life. The club has always been a safe and positive space for me, and I look forward to attending the club and spending time with friends and staff. Little did they know they got me through times when I had no hope. Last year, I also met my new club manager, Miss Kyra. She introduced me to new programs and opportunities, and she challenged me to not be so shy or reserved. Through programs like Photo Voice and Think, Learn, Change, also known as TLC, I'm learning a lot about social issues that are impacting my club and community directly. Mental health is a crucial issue that is affecting my own club and community. Did you know 1 in 6 youth ages 9 to 15 have reported bullying, and 2.3 million students around the U.S. have been reporting severe mental health issues? I lost my voice along the way, and I started to not like being in the spotlight anymore. My mental health was challenged. Through the TLC Youth Advocacy Program, I have rediscovered my passion and look forward to the days of becoming a lawyer and helping others. I'm here to express a voice for thousands of Boys and Girls Club members around the state, and to ask the committee to support our bill and invest in us. My promise to you is we won't let you down. Thank you.
Well, you haven't let us down at all. That was great.
Thank you.
That was terrific testimony. And clearly, it's made a big impact on your life, and that's terrific. And appreciate you sharing your story.
Thank you.
So I think we have one more person, Mayor Cross, on virtually.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, and thank you so much to the members of the committee. And yes, a superb testimony. And thank you so much to our young 14-year-old who understands the nature of what community should be, to express a hold hard and strong support for those that have a need. I am 100% in support of this bill. I think that the Boys and Girls Club of Maryland have begun a great work, and this is not the moment to rest. I appreciate all the legislative fellows who opened up this bill to take part of this presentation. Senator, you have excellent choice, and you have shown that the next generation is actively engaged in not only the legislative process, but the work ahead. Which brings me to why the Boys and Girls Club is such a transformative program with impact and challenging all of those social norms that we have seen in low to no to mid-income folks. We are very important in this community, and the developmental programs associated with the Boys and Girls Club have changed lives. I've had the exceptional opportunity to go to the first time for many of our Boys and Girls Clubs here in Glen Arden to the African American Heritage Museum, a cultural explosion that opened the eyes of so many of our young folks to see the legends of past and the history that they were born from, to ensure that all members have a gratitude for where we are today. We like to have this bill not only passed, but also refunded and continued to be funded, because the daily projects, the physical activities, the catering to the wide range of just social, mental literacy, financial STEM that you've heard, this is a nurturing environment that is safe for our children and allows our parents to continue to work. This funding is not merely an investment in a program, folks. This is an investment in real lives, and I support it. I thank you so much, Senator, for bringing this forward. I thank you to all the wonderful legislative fellows, and I urge you to pass this bill and sustain critical resources to the Boys and Girls Club.
Thank you, Mayor. Questions for the mayor or the panel? Anyone? Senator Zucker.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you so much for your testimony. I know that this is the operating costs. I just wanted to thank the chairman and this committee, because we believe that the facilities that you all learn and gain this valuable information is vital as well. And this committee, following your all lead, have supported the Boys and Girls Clubs throughout the state, investing probably over the last couple of years more than $6 million in capital. There's never enough, but that's just our, and the chair is certainly a small way of saying thank you for everything that you're doing, and we see you and appreciate the difference, the positive difference you're making throughout the state.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Benson.
Yes. First of all, I want to thank the mayor for being here, giving such a wonderful testimony. But I can't help but to thank Mark and the people who give so unselfishly of your time in working with our youngsters and producing some of the finest, the brightest, and the best. I have two nephews that were wandering around up in Hagerstown. And needless to say, people who know me know that that would be very unacceptable. And so they ended up at the Boys and Girls Club on Pennsylvania Avenue. What they got from that experience could not be given a price tag. We can't pay for it. The people who work there at that center took those two youngsters and turned them upside down, downsides up. Is that the right word?
Upside down. Right side
Up.
Right side up.
Right side up.
There you go.
Right side up. Thank you, Senator.
That's what I'm here for. Keep you straight.
They've turned out to be very successful. One has a business in Frederick, Maryland. where he mentors and carries out some of the principles that were established at the Boys and Girls Club. And he mentors and works with about 85 youngsters. And of those 85 youngsters, about 90% of those youngsters end up by being successful, going to college, and he uses basketball as the kind of what do you say? He lures them in with basketball because he got his master's degree from Salisbury. The other one got his master's degree, his BS degree from Baltimore International College. And all of that had to do with the inspiration that he received from the Boys and Girls Club. I can't say enough about this Boys and Girls Club. If we had more in this nation, in Prince George's County and in the state of Maryland, that had the characteristics of the Boys and Girls Club, a lot of our children would not get into trouble. Involving parents, the program is just unbelievable. Mark, what you all have done, and the volunteers, what you have done for our children cannot, I want to reiterate, cannot be given a price tag. Arthur and JC, as a matter of fact, Arthur became the Boy Scout of this, he was one of the Boy Scouts of, not Boy Scouts, the Scout of the Year. He was one of the youngsters that was chosen as a member, as the outstanding member of the Boys and Girls Club. Went to New York. I could talk on and on about this, but I am. He said, cut it short. My boss.
He provides all kinds of information.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. But I really want to commend you all for the work that you're doing with our young people. I'm an educator, and I just believe that we need to take care of our children. If we don't have to worry about a future because there won't be one.
And isn't that so? It is indeed. It is indeed. Thank you all very much. It really is a great program, and we're very grateful that you're out there doing this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Senator Zucker.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I'm welcoming Ann Seacott, who should be signed up to testify. For the record, Senator Craig Zucker here in support of Senate Bill 706. Mr. Chairman, colleagues, this was introduced last year by then Senator Kathy Klossmeyer, passed unanimously out of this body, and then I think it got delayed toward the end of session. With the increase of gaming in our state, it's become more and more important for us to protect those that could be vulnerable to addiction and make sure that they have the resources to address that. I think we got the sports betting bill right, Mr. Chairman. I know that we worked very hard on that, but with the and at that time we had enough money in the problem gaming fund, but with the expansion of gaming and people utilizing it, it does come with more revenues, but it also comes with sometimes more social issues. So this, I think, reflects the values of our committee. I don't want to take up too much time since it passed unanimously out of this committee, but I would want to thank Georgie Jones from my office, who's worked really hard, and Seacott, who's been a champion on this. So with that, I'll turn it over to Ms. Seacott.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, members of the committee. I'm Ann Seacott testifying on behalf of the bill, on behalf of the Maryland chapter of the National Council on Alcoholism and Drug Dependence in favor of the bill. We thank the sponsor. We thank the former sponsor, your former colleague, the county executive, and we're very appreciative of you all having passed this last year. This is just a quick reminder. The funds raised through the profits from the gaming go to things like hiring peers. Right now, there are 5 peers that are helping well over 500 help seekers throughout the state. We need more of them. We need to do more public education, more prevention programming, and do a little more research so we can bring you the data to show the good work that is happening with this. So with that, we want to ask you to do it again this year and pass the bill. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I don't know that I recalled this from last year, but why does it take almost 4 years to do this? It says, I mean, it says it could be due before, but it says by 2030. Do you anticipate it would really take that long to do the study?
Oh, the study. I'm sorry. I'm like, the money, right? So honestly, the money is needed to do the study right. So that's part of it, that the money needs to be there. I can't speak on behalf of the folks that would be doing the study, but I'm sure they're looking at a pretty substantial amount of funds needed to do the study the right way, because this is also, it's new, right? So we've only had, two or three full years of the sports wagering. So I think that's also probably part of it as well.
Yeah, and then to add to that, I think the Department of Health, I spoke to them the other day, and it sounds like they're in the process of working on this as well. So it really sounds like it could be a collaborative effort.
And if it's sooner, that would be great.
Yeah.
It would be.
Yeah,
Thank
agreed.
you.
It's such a needed thing to have happen. I'm hearing more and more from people that have never had trouble with any kind of gambling or anything like this and being in debt. And I'm talking to companies that are having to bail out employees that have gotten so far in over their heads. And it's just something that we really need to be addressing. So I applaud you for this bill.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else? Thank you very much. Senator Zucker, 708.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, distinguished colleagues of the Budget and Taxation Committee. This is a sponsor-only bill. The reason why it's sponsor-only is because we've passed it, I believe, 3 times in a row. Last year it was put in by Senate President Ferguson and I. So this is with the expansion of gaming, especially sports betting. We've seen the rise of those that are not being honest in this market, and we need an independent validator to make sure that we're providing that consumer protection. Mr. Chairman, I'd simply say, House, it's in your court, your move. We've done our part.
Okay. Thank you very much. Senator Hershey.
Say I have a beautiful voice. Who's that? Thanks for radio. I'll sing it for you. Not for that. Not that? Ooh, she just shut me down. No problem.
572. It's not like we were waiting for you. It's all good. When you go back there, tell Hershey he's the one who's really in trouble.
I will.
Yeah.
Do not press, so I don't want to. Well, it was off, so that's why I touched it. Otherwise, it wouldn't have. Okay. I know. It was off. All right. Hello, committee members, Mr. Chair. This is, for the record, Senator Don Guile here to present Senate Bill 572. This is enabling legislation for Anne Arundel County. It would provide greater flexibility to the existing enabling statute pertaining to impact fee exemptions. Just by way of quick background, in the 2008 legislative session, this General Assembly passed a bill which would enable Anne Arundel County to exempt or provide credits on impact fees for development by not-for-profit entities that have been in existence for at least 3 years. Development impact fees are levied on developers for financing, in whole or in part, the capital costs of additional or expanded public works improvements and facilities, such as roads, schools, et cetera, that may be required to accommodate new construction or development. This bill, Senate Bill 572, as amended per the amendment that should be in your bill packet, would expand the list of entities that the county could exempt from impact fees to include a construction project or construction or development project that is a moderately priced dwelling unit, an accessory dwelling unit, or complies with the existing requirements for workforce housing, or qualifies for impact fee credits in cases where developers directly provide for infrastructure and or services on behalf of the county. This bill aligns with Anne Arundel County's goals of expanding affordable housing in the county. The committee has already has a letter of support from the Anne Arundel County Senate delegation. The delegation also voted this morning to support the amendments, and I think that letter has also been sent to the committee. And for these reasons, I respectfully request a favorable report on Senate Bill 572, and I have with me Ethan Hunt from Anne Arundel County, who will also be providing testimony.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Ethan Hunt for the Anne Arundel County Administration. Senator Guile summed this bill up pretty well, but this bill, you have my written testimony, so I won't repeat that, but this bill really is one more tool in the toolbox for Anne Arundel County to address housing affordability and the housing shortage we're facing in Anne Arundel County. Anne Arundel County was actually one of the first counties to impose developer impact fees all the way back in 1987. And these three categories of dwellings that are outlined in the amendment are already identified in the county code. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions for the Senator of the panel? Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you very much.
Okay, where's Senator Zucker?
There it is. There it is.
Jansen's not here. I know Jansen. Senator Hershey, what are you doing sitting back there?
I was waiting for you to call me up.
Oh my gosh, we've been calling you for the last hour.
Had you done that, I assure you I would have been here.
You know, there's a certain level of respect that we maintain here in this committee.
Mr. Chairman, my apologies, and I certainly respect every member of this committee, especially you. And I did just actually leave one of my panelists was at the witness table in finance when I was walking over, so I know he will.
You're fine, Senator.
He'll be done after he doesn't have to answer any of my questions.
You're good. You're good.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. For the record, Senator Steve Hershey to present Senate Bill 774, which alters the assessment process used by the State Department of Assessment and Taxation when valuing the operating property of a rural broadband service provider. There shouldn't be any opposition to this. MACO had some concerns early on, but I do have an amendment that is sponsored by MACO or requested by MACO that will create a local option pilot program and will enable local governments to work with their broadband partners to have a payment in lieu of taxes instead of the assessed value. This amendment will make it completely optional for the counties to participate in this pilot, and the assessment at the state level will remain unchanged. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I have one and maybe two panelists that will go into a little bit more detail on the bill, but would certainly appreciate a favorable response, and we'll be open to any questions if you have them.
Great, thank you, and good afternoon, and thank you, Chairman and Co-Chairman, and the entire committee today, and you, Senator Hershey, for coming. My name is Deanna Subzak, and I'm the Senior Vice President and General Manager of Think Big Networks. We are an internet service provider deploying service in rural counties and small suburban communities in Maryland. Here in Maryland, we have many areas that are either rural or somehow disadvantaged that don't have access to high-speed internet, which is crucial in this day and age. Maryland realized that there was no business model that could support these builds and other inequalities and created the Office of Statewide Broadband. Through these programs, broadband providers partner not only with the state, but with the counties and towns to help close the digital divide and bring the providers' capital commitment to a model that should be sustainable. As an unregulated utility, we are required to report our total building costs annually to SSTAT through the Public Utility Operating Property Tax Return. The problem is, with this filing, it doesn't take the subsidy into consideration, and the provider is being assessed at the property value, which is much higher than warranted. In some counties, Think Big was originally assessed a property tax bill that was more than 50% higher than our actual revenue. Prior to our costly appeals, after that, we were actually able to get the bill down to 50% of our revenue. We believe that this is an unintended consequence, and it's not sustainable for the provider. There's also not a way to pass this expense through to the consumer because in many cases, these residents are already financially disadvantaged. We tried to work with our county partners that actually wanted to really help us with the problem, possibly through a pilot program, but their hands were tied because current law does not allow for pilot programs for broadband providers. We're requesting that the state allow the counties to adopt the pilot programs with broadband providers as needed so that they can ensure that all Maryland residents have access to this critical infrastructure. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Jennings.
Clarification. You said the tax, I'm trying to figure out what the tax is compared to what your revenue is.
So the original bill, the tax bill was 50% higher than our revenue. And so we appealed, very costly appeal. We had to hire tax attorneys and we appealed and we got the tax bill down to 50% of the revenue, which obviously is not sustainable because we have so many additional expenses in order to be able to provide service in these areas.
50% of the revenue?
Yes.
Okay, I don't even know how you can support that. Okay.
Can't.
I need help.
Any other questions for the witness? And we have the Honorable Reuben Collins on virtual.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you. My name is Reuben Collins. I'm president of the Charles County Board of Commissioners. I can tell you that we consider ourselves a success story as a result of the work and our collaboration with Think Big. So we are here to strongly support SB 774 with amendments. This legislation will alter assessment processes used by the State Department of Assessment and Taxation when valuing operating property of a rural broadband service provider. What this has done for us and our relationship with Think Big is to provide state-of-the-art fiber to the premises broadband service to certain areas of our community that were previously unserved. This is extremely important to rural areas, and when you look at the county, our county is one of the fastest growing in the entire state of Maryland, but we had sectors of our population that were absolutely unserved by and lacking internet service. Under the current policy, ISPs are taxed on the value of the infrastructure without consideration for limitations on consumption due to the rural nature of areas where that expansion has occurred. So we're unsure if ISPs will be eager in the future to enter to agreements with counties and municipalities to expand broadband infrastructure. As amended, SB 774 adjusts the current tax policy impacting ISPs by giving each jurisdiction the opportunity to expressly negotiate payment in lieu of taxes or pilot programs. We support SB 774 with the amendments that were suggested by MACO, and we strongly urge support for this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I don't see Mr. Johansson, but I do we still have Ms. Anderson.
I didn't know, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I didn't know we had changed that. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. My name is Carrington Anderson with the Maryland Association of Counties, speaking in support with amendments on Senate Bill 774. I want to thank the senator for working with us, and counties really just wanted that local option or pilot program. We were able to work out our concerns with the bill and support the bill with the amendments. Thank you.
Questions? Thank you all. And that concludes that hearing and
Thank you.
the hearing.